What's up, space pirates? This is your Admiral, the endlessly edgy Dr. Disaster. And did you ever meet someone who was so committed to being something that they clearly weren't that they would tell blatant and obvious lies right to your face in order to maintain their ridiculous facade?
It was you.
Yeah, that's the sort of energy that we've gotten in the entertainment industry in the past decade or so. Take the video game Dragon Age the Veilguard as a prime example of what I'm talking about here. That franchise was always supposed to be focused on fighting against the forces of darkness within its fantasy world, but the weirdo progressives at BioWare transformed it into a creepy dating simulator where every character was pansexual and it felt like the entire point of the thing was the romance. In other words, it was trying to be something that it was not intended to be, and they went out of their way to shove those elements of it into our faces. It was basically a blatant lie, and gamers were revolted, so we revolted.
Get the hell out of here.
They've done this sort of thing with a shitload of IPs, but one IP that has been in the crosshairs big time lately has been Tomb Raider. Look at how they used to market this game back in the day. The character was unapologetically eye candy for the male audience, but in recent years, the activists in the entertainment industry have co-opted the franchise to turn it into something else. Look at the Netflix cartoon here, where Lara Croft is given the man jaw and a flat chest, at least comparatively to her classic depictions. The intention was to turn this franchise against the very people it was made for originally, culminating in this tabletop game here where they were attempting to transform the property into a crystal clear social justice message.
Let me guess. White devil, white devil?
They were all about decolonizing Tomb Raider, but the pushback against this woke shit in entertainment has claimed yet another scalp. It looks like this tabletop RPG, which had everyone who possessed any semblance of taste collectively rolling their eyes, well, this thing has been canceled because of creative issues with the licensor of the property. And as for the brain-dead makers of this game, we've got a little message for these idiots whose minds have been broken by the woke propaganda.
Now you don't have to play a victim. You can really be one.
Alright, me hearties, make sure that you hit the like button on this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I've begun uploading some content over on Rumble as well, so make sure that you follow Dr. Disaster over on that site too. But let's talk about the cancellation of this Tomb Raider game because I think it is freaking hilarious. In order to give you an idea though as to what a ridiculous turd this game was going to be, look at this announcement for the game from the site Tomb Raider Chronicles, where they tell us what the game was going to be about. It says here, British adventurer Lara Croft will transition from being a raider of tombs to a seeker of truth as Evil Hat Productions and Crystal Dynamics seek to redefine the Tomb Raider series in order to escape a history wounded by colonialism, according to an excerpt from the official Tomb Raider Shadows of Truth RPG rulebook. So great, a tomb raiding game where you don't raid tombs. That is about as stupid as a Star Wars movie where Luke Skywalker is no longer a hero. But of course, Disney did that long ago, so this shit with Tomb Raider probably isn't that surprising, I guess. But reading on, they quote the excerpt from this game saying, raiding, as depicted in the original Tomb Raider games and stories, involves going to ancient tombs and historical sites of different civilizations and acquiring artifacts. It operates on the assumption of finders keepers that grants raiders with the means and the drive to claim ownership of artifacts regardless of whether they have any historical or cultural claim to the treasure. Yeah, this is the same premise of that video game that was announced several days ago, Relooted, and look at how roundly mocked that shit was. People do not buy into this anti-colonial narrative, and we are sick of this shit, and Crystal Dynamics has at least the common sense to realize that people don't want this sort of thing, so it is likely that they were the ones who told this company, Evil Hat, to stop making this damn game. But let's read the rest of this crap. Later games released in the franchise have started the work of addressing this by having Lara Croft acknowledge her past mistakes and try to understand and show respect for the cultures and communities she comes into contact with. She has also worked to reform raider culture and raise the awareness of her peers. Lara no longer decorates her mantle with mythic artifacts. As a raider, she prioritizes seeking out the truth. Much of this game is inspired by her humanity, struggle with heroism, and her tenacity. We believe that all three aspects are an important component in creating a game that celebrates history and culture while acknowledging the respect and work required to live in a world wounded by colonialism. You get the idea. This was being made by an insufferable company of thin-skinned rejects who, as you can see here, they have their X accounts posts protected. Now, ask yourself, what kind of a company creates a social media account only to lock their own posts so that people can't see them and share them unless they are approved by the person running the account? Spoiler alert, it is a company that is far less interested in making money than they are making and consuming propaganda. These jackasses cannot stand the idea of living in a reality where other people have differing opinions, apparently. But it would seem that narrow-mindedness has cost them at least a bit. Here is the message from this dog water company announcing that their game is no longer happening. It says, "Sad news. We are canceling the Tomb Raider RPG project. Due to creative differences, we couldn't get our vision to gel with the licensors, so we've chosen to part ways." Notice how they said that they were the ones that are canceling the project. It says that we have chosen to part ways, and what this suggests to me is that Crystal Dynamics, who owns the license, they probably told these idiots to tone down all of this decolonizing language because the writing has been on the wall for the past year or so. This sort of thing is about as popular as a freaking rug burn, and Crystal Dynamics likely didn't want their IP to be associated with such nonsensical messaging. It's one thing to transform Lara Croft so that she looks more like a dude, that's one thing, but to actually spit in the face of the entire premise of the series, to call raiding tombs a bad and villainous thing, is pretty damned idiotic for a franchise called Tomb Raider. That is a bridge too far, and based on how this cancellation announcement is worded, I expect that is precisely what happened. After all, what else could have caused this company, Evil Hat, to remove themselves from the biggest project that they have ever been associated with? This licensing agreement was a big deal for them. Well, the fact that this is a company who hides their posts on X like chicken shit ideologues tells us all we need to know. Something about their messaging was being challenged by Crystal Dynamics, and they didn't like it. The good news is that for those of us who actually appreciate what the franchise used to be, we don't have to stand for this particular nonsense to be printed. But I'm going to leave it there. Drop your contempt for the dipshits who are trying to subvert this IP into the comment section below, and we will talk there. Thanks for watching, me hearties. If you haven't already, your Admiral is inviting you to subscribe to the channel and become a part of the crew. Life as a space pirate may not be glamorous, but there's always plenty of booty.